Good morning, everyone. Hope you've had a good weekend and a good first week of our distance learning situation. I hope everybody has been taking some time to get used to where you need to go to find materials and communicate. I got a 90% response from everyone's distance learning check-in review questions last week, which is awesome. I was actually kind of suspecting that less people would be either able to access everything at home or that some of you might have forgotten, but 90% was great. And a few others have been trickling in. So if you still haven't been able to do that, I did send a few emails home into your personal student emails. Please take care of that as soon as possible. But it's good to be back with you guys as we go into our second week. And I want to take some time today to just post a little screencast video so that you know what we're going to be doing as our first task for the first 3 days of this week, and to go through some modeling questions with you to get you started on those tasks. So on our starter screen here, let me just give you a little layout of our schedule for this week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Today, we're going to be going over the rise of the Ottoman Empire. So this is all in our Unit 4 packet. We're going to be finishing off our Unit 4 packet pages this week. But today we'll be focusing on Rise of the Ottoman Empire, pages 25 to 28. So if you don't have your packet out yet or pulled up on your screen, take a second to do that. I'll go over a couple of the questions with you to get you started. I'll model some of those things and give you some example responses. And then most of the timeline questions you'll see on those pages, I'm going to have you guys do on your own. And then tomorrow, we'll be doing pages 29 to 31. This is how the Ottomans dealt with diversity, with people that were not Muslims in their empire. We'll do a little screencasting lesson on practicing a skill called inferencing, where we take clues from a document text or from a document picture and try to see if we can draw a conclusion about what that message means. Some information, some knowledge, some facts that is shown to us through clues. That's called inferencing. So we'll do a little bit of document analysis for that tomorrow. And I'll give you a couple of documents to try on your own after I model one of those. That will be in a separate screencast that I post tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, to finish up our Unit 4 packet pages, we have one more one more empire to look at, the Mughal Empire, which is where the Muslim civilization reaches all the way to India. If you remember, India is the kind of home of Hinduism and Buddhism and its own golden age and dynasty empires of the past. But these Islamic civilizations will reach all the way to India. And we'll take a look at how they also deal with some of the same challenges of diversity that the Ottoman Empire does more towards the west in the Middle East. So today's focus is just on pages 25 to 28, Rise of the Ottoman Empire. So I want to model some of those things with you. So let's go over to our packet page. So once again, you should be on page 25. It looks just like this. It has a map of the Ottoman Empire, as well as a little introduction. So follow along with me as I read the introduction with you. All three of these empires that we're looking at, the Ottoman, the Safavid Empire, and the Mughal Empire, these are all considered gunpowder empires. The reason why they're called gunpowder empires is that the Islamic civilizations started to use gunpowder or black powder in some of their military weapons. And they got that from, think back to see if you remember what civilization we looked at in our Golden Age civilizations that invented gunpowder and black powder. I'll leave that there for you for a second, because later in our timeline we'll find out who they got it from and why they were able to learn about this new military technology. So I'm going to read through this little section here with you, and I want to have you guys either make some notes or underline a couple of things just to introduce the Ottomans to you. Beginning in 1280, the Ottoman Turks rose from a minor frontier state to control most of southeastern Europe, southwest Asia, and parts of North Africa. Starting in the early 1500s Common Era, in Persia and India, the Safavids and Mughals created powerful states whose institutions and policies shared many similarities to the Ottoman Empire. Until their decline in the 1700s Common Era, these three Muslim states controlled the richest and most developed lands on three continents. and challenged Europeans for control of the seas and trade routes. But by 1800, all were in decline or collapsed. So once again, the Ottoman Empire here you can see on this map. The Safavid Empire, which is like modern day Iran, Iraq, where the Persian Empire was, is in the middle. And the Mughals, which we'll take a look at on Wednesday, is in India, all the way farthest to the east. All right, so now that we've read through this little introduction, I just want to highlight a couple of things that you guys can write in the margins on or underline. So first off, it starts with a nice time reference saying beginning in 1280. If you look back to our page on the Crusades, the time period of the Crusades was from about year 1000 to the end of the 1200s. So this is the Ottoman Turks. The rise of the Ottoman Turks is right around the end of the Crusade Wars. And we'll see a little bit later in our timeline that the Crusades end with the Muslims having control of the Holy Land, of Jerusalem and the surrounding areas. So this allows the Ottomans, who are a Muslim group, to start to expand from the Middle East into places like Europe and start to threaten the European civilizations. One other thing I want to point out too is that all three of these Muslim states we're going to look at this week, it says that they controlled the richest and most developed lands over 3 continents. We already looked at the Abbasid Caliphate, which is responsible for the Islamic Golden Age, and we spent a lot of time on studying how trade enabled that Islamic civilization, the Abbasid Caliphate, to learn from other civilizations that came before it, to transcribe all of their writings and inventions, and develop new improved versions of those ideas and those inventions. So part of the reason why these 3 Muslim states are considered some of the richest and most developed lands of the time all has to do with them being able to trade from other civilizations and kind of learn the best of what those civilizations had to offer. So let's take a look at our geography questions to start. If you scroll down here with me, we're going to answer some relative location questions. So relative location is a description of where a place is in relation to something or somewhere else. For example, if we take ourselves in New York State and we want to tell someone where Canada is relative to our location in New York State, we would say Canada is north of the state of New York. So in these answers, we're going to be using our cardinal directions, like north, south, east, west, and even kind of diagonal directions like northwest, southeast, etc. So the 2 questions that we're looking for are identify the 3 continents on which the Ottoman Empire was located once their territory is completely expanded, and describe the location of the Ottoman Empire relative to 2 bodies of water that we see on the map. So to do this with you, I'm going to jump over to our slides so that you guys can fill in things as we go along. Okay. So identifying the 3 continents on which the Ottoman Empire was located. If you look at the map, always take a look at the key first. It'll just give you some context, a sense of what it is showing you. So as these colors change, this is the territory that the Ottomans controlled as time went on, under different rulers and under different decades in their era. So the Ottomans are beginning in kind of what we call like modern day Turkey, right around here, very close to the capital of the Byzantine Empire, Constantinople. And then they will expand outward from there as time goes on. So if we're looking for the 3 continents that the Ottoman Empire will eventually control its territory on, we're looking for the largest titles, the largest labels of words on our map. So we always have, bodies of water labeled, we have cities labeled with little dots, and then as you look into the larger areas, this is where it'll tell you what continents. So North Africa, we have Europe, and Asia, the Middle East. Here's the Arabian Peninsula. The Arabian Peninsula is considered part of the Middle East region, but that region is also on the continent of Asia. That stretches all the way to China, remember. So for our first answer, identifying the 3 continents on which the Ottoman Empire was located. So studying our map, we can say that they eventually control territory on Europe, Africa, and Asia. So the second question is, describe the location of the Ottoman Empire relative to 2 bodies of water. So this one you can choose almost any body of water on this map and look at the territory of the Ottoman Empire to use this in your description. But I'll give you a couple of examples to use. If we take probably the most well-known body of water that we've talked a lot about, the Mediterranean Sea, the Ottoman Empire will control territory up here, which would be north of the Mediterranean Sea. They control territory on the north coast of Africa, which would be south of the Mediterranean Sea. And then also the territory that they control over here towards the Middle East region would be east of the Mediterranean Sea. So the OE, Ottoman Empire, is just what I'm using for short. You could say is north, south, and east of the Mediterranean Sea. We can also say that the Ottoman Empire, if we're picking the Persian Gulf over here, is northwest of the Persian Gulf. Since their territory is all kind of in this direction, this diagonal direction, we're going north as well as west in that diagonal. The Ottoman Empire is northwest of the Persian Gulf. And you can also respond to these by adding in some others if you want to choose the Black Sea, Caspian Sea, even the North Atlantic Ocean out there. Any of that is fine. Those are just a couple examples that you can use. Okay, so let's go on to our next page, page 26. I'll jump back to our actual package just to show you what we're going to be taking a look at. So starting on page 26 and going all the way through page 28 is a timeline of the rise of the Ottoman Empire. So as you scroll down, we're going to be reading through kind of a vertical timeline. It gives us important dates and important events with the dates labeled right before the paragraphs. So there's some questions that I've kind of had embedded in here, as well as some images and a map that I want you guys to analyze. So this has 7 questions total, and we're going to stop before we do any other screencast lessons right here at the end of page 28. So I'm going to model one of these with you, and I want you guys to try the rest on your own. And I'll be posting some examples of responses probably tonight on my absentee slides, kind of like I do during a regular school day for anybody who misses anything. But in this case, I would want you to check your answers against those. So as you're filling out your packet, as most of you already do, it's a good idea to use pencil so that you can change or adjust your answers. All right, so let's go back to our slides so that you guys are on the right page. It should be on page 26. All right, so the first thing on our timeline is 1096 to the 1290s, the Crusades. So I want to have you guys highlight and make a little margin note about this as well. This is something we just talked about, which is a nice context clue for when and how the Ottomans are rising to power. So 1096 to 1290s, the Crusades were fought between Muslims and Christians for control of the Holy Land. After 200 years of fighting, about 7 major Crusader wars, the Muslims kept control of this territory, the Holy Land. So we spent a few days learning about the perspective of Christians on the Crusades versus the perspective of Muslims on the Crusades. We did a little bit of map practice to see where this territory was around Jerusalem, like modern-day Israel and the Middle East. But it's important for us to know, and I want you guys to highlight this section here, or underline. After 200 years of fighting, the Muslims kept control of this territory of the Holy Land. And this will allow the Ottomans, which are a Muslim group that start to rise in modern-day Turkey, to take advantage of that territory and start to expand from there. So our next timeline information is 1326. A leader named Osman and his Turkish warriors, which we're calling Ottomans, took over areas of Asia Minor and the Balkan Peninsula in Eastern Europe near the Byzantine Empire. So just to show you where that is talking about, I want you to flip back to our prior page, the map that we just looked at. So the Balkan Peninsula is another name for this region right here. The Greek, peninsula and archipelago that we studied with ancient Greece. You can see Athens right there. But all of what used to be Macedonia, they called Macedonia in the past. Modern day like Austria, Romania, modern day Greece, of course. This is the Balkan Peninsula. And this would be kind of considered Asia Minor, the northern part of the Middle East, like modern day Turkey. So the Ottomans are starting out in modern day Turkey and starting to control areas of the rest of Anatolia, modern day Turkey, as well as going around the Black Sea, across the Aegean Sea to Greece, and controlling the territory of the Byzantine Empire on the other side of Constantinople. So our first question in this timeline is, how might Christian leaders of the Byzantine Empire feel about the Muslim Ottomans taking over territory so close to the Byzantine Empire? And when you make your response, I always have, for many of these questions, I always have a little reminder to explain or to give reasons why your answer is what it is. Because we always want to answer in detail so that on tests and document questions we can provide as much information as possible and get as many points, even partial points if our answer is maybe incorrect, on these types of questions. So we need to practice that skill of writing in detail and giving specifics from the documents or readings that we are looking at. So how might Christian leaders of the Byzantine Empire feel about Muslim Ottomans taking over territory so close to the Byzantine Empire? Take a second, and you can pause this for right now and think about that or respond to that on your own, and then you can always adjust your answer. All right, so my example would be that Christian leaders like Justinian or whoever's in power of the Byzantine Empire, or even ones like the Pope back, in his seat of power in the heart of Europe, looking at Christian lands, a Christian Byzantine Empire that is being threatened and taken over by some of these Muslim civilizations. They would probably not like this, of course. They would feel like Muslims are threatening their territory. They had just lost control of the Holy Land in Jerusalem, and now the Ottomans are getting closer, especially threatening the major city of Constantinople, capital of that Christian Byzantine Empire. So they're threatening their territory, but also they're threatening the religious power, the religious status that the Christian church had in Europe and in the Byzantine Empire, which is now starting to shrink its territory, but it had controlled territory over into the Middle East area at its height. So if you remember that Hagia Sophia, that church that Justinian had built in Constantinople, that is going to be kind of a major target, a major prize of the Muslims. It'll symbolize, what they want to take over when looking at these cities and these territories like Constantinople. All right, so that is an example of how I want you guys to respond to these questions. Always try to give specifics and details in your answer. So I want you guys to try these 7 questions after we've just modeled one together. But I want you to stop right here at page 28 for today. I'll give you guys another screencast tomorrow when we look at the next pages of how the Ottomans deal with diversity, different belief systems, different people of religious and ethnic groups other than Muslims that are living in their territory. Okay, let's just go back to our bell ringer screen for a second. So that is your screencast for today. I'll be posting some examples to these that you can check and adjust your responses a little bit later tonight. And I'll see you guys back here tomorrow, Tuesday, and we'll do the next couple pages, diversity in the Ottoman Empire, and practice inferencing. If you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to email me. But first, look back on our announcements after you watch this screencast to see if that can help you. And if there's anything that you're confused on beyond that, do not hesitate to send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So guys, thanks for joining me. Do a little bit of work today. Do your very best. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.